Hey there, I'm Natalie Hunter, writer and weeb, here to talk about something other than isekai for once. Kaguya-sama Love is War is easily one of the funniest anime series in recent years, and has managed to create something really unique within the high school romantic comedy genre. I have to admit, as someone who hasn't read the manga, I did kind of expect the lead characters to get together at the end of season 1, because it was hard to envisage how the premise of two people who want to be together refusing to confess first could stay fresh and interesting, no matter how funny the show is and how great the characters are to watch. I definitely thought it was going to need to give us that payoff, rather than having the potential to keep going over multiple seasons without either going stale or switching its focus to something else, like potentially the relationship that would come after the confession or the love lives of the side characters. But that was underestimating just how good the writing is on this series. While with season 2, the format has changed subtly from a couple of isolated stories or battles between Kaguya and Shirogane per episode, to something with longer arcs intertwined, like the student council elections, and the side characters are indeed getting stories of their own. The relationship, or lack thereof, of the two leads has remained just as compelling, thanks to some well-crafted character development. It doesn't look like we'll be seeing either Kaguya or Shirogane confess this season, but at this point I have every confidence that no matter how long the series goes on before we get that resolution to the main plot, and even how long it goes on after that point, this show will continue to be a must-watch. But when it comes to romance and character writing, do we have enough to go on yet to make a decent prediction as to just how the battle to get that confession will end? Well, as an author with a fair amount of experience in writing love, albeit for mature audiences, I do feel like certain outcomes are more likely to be chosen by the author than others. With no spoilers from the manga then, because I haven't read it, here are the different possible endings to the confession plot, and how likely I think they are to be what we'll eventually see happen on screen. Of Shirogane and Kaguya, I honestly think Shirogane is less likely to be the one who confesses in the end. The title of the show in Japanese roughly translates to Kaguya-sama wants to be confessed to, which makes it feel like originally the battle would be won if Kaguya managed to secure that confession from Shirogane. However, in season 2, a rather telling question mark has been added to the end of the title. This suggests that not only is Kaguya herself wavering on whether that's what she really wants over just any situation where she gets to be with Shirogane, but also that that's really no longer the premise of the show we're watching. Shirogane also wants to be confessed to, after all. From a storytelling perspective though, I also think that the Shirogane confession ending is the one that requires the least character change, and so would be the least impactful ending to the plot. Shirogane doesn't have to change a huge amount as a person to swallow his pride and confess to Kaguya. His reasons for not doing it are tied more to the fact he's poor and she's rich, and that's a lot easier for a person to overcome than what's going on with Kaguya. Shirogane has also been given that trait of forgetting himself and the game that he's playing under certain circumstances, such as when he was distracted by the stars. We can see from Kaguya's reactions when he does this that rather than thinking she's about to win and get the confession, she's completely freaked out. Kaguya would, ironically, probably prefer him not to confess, because she won't know how to react, and that will be extremely embarrassing for her. It would actually be better for her, as someone who wants to maintain control over herself and how she's seen, if the confession doesn't come as a surprise and force an unplanned emotional reaction out of her. The only way she can have control over the situation where the confession happens, though, is if she does it herself. For Kaguya to confess, then, would seem like the direction that things are going in, though I don't think it's going to actually be as simple as her continuing on the trajectory that she's on towards accepting her feelings and then ultimately taking that step. That would be in keeping with a normal romance story structure, but I think this story is trying to do more than just being a satisfying romance arc with a particularly entertaining route to the happy ending. Kaguya confessing would be a fitting end to the character arc she's been given, and one that could be seen as a win for her as well as for Shirogane, as well as of course for the characters who've been putting up with her. But I still don't think that's how this is going to end. After all, Shirogane or Kaguya simply confessing are not the only possibilities. So let's look at some of the other options for how this story could be resolved. One way the author could wrap up the romantic tension is to have both characters plan to confess at the same time, showing them scheming to do this with side characters who may well also be aware that the other character is planning a confession too. If the story was going to be a simple one-season romantic comedy, then this would be a sweet, satisfying and in-character way to do it. Both characters lose by confessing, but they also both win by getting to hear a confession. It would also allow for plenty of comedy potential by involving the rest of the cast. But I think now that the scope of the story is clearly going to be a lot bigger than that, this might be too simple, and while still satisfying, not particularly dramatic or surprising, perhaps even a little anticlimactic. As with all of the possibilities discussed here, there's still a chance that this will be the ending, and I'm sure if it is, it will be pulled off brilliantly. But I still don't think it's that likely now. Another possible ending would be that nobody confesses, and as a result they don't end up together at all. Perhaps with them heading off to different universities and the connection they have fizzling out. This would also cover other possibilities, like one or both of them falling for somebody else, effectively giving up on each other. Or even really weird possibilities, like one or both of the characters dying. I don't think we'll be seeing that kind of downer ending, but it's possible we will see some hints that that ending might be becoming more and more likely as the story progresses, as a means of forcing the characters to accept that things won't remain as they are forever, and they don't have unlimited time to feel ready to actually get together. This was already shown as being on their minds when their term as the student council was up. That only meant they'd no longer be spending time together in the same way if they didn't do something about it. They'd still be at the same school and with easy ways to contact each other if they weren't too proud. But as their lives keep moving toward things like actually graduating, the threat of the kinda one that got away type ending will become more and more real for both of them. So, now we come to the way I do actually think this story will end. Neither character will actually confess, but they will still get together. Perhaps with a kiss or something other than words marking the start of their relationship as a couple. Why? Well, how many real relationships actually start with someone confessing? It may be a big trope in high school settings, but that's just it. It's only a trope, and more importantly, a formality. Kaguya expects formalities as a result of her high-class upbringing, and Shirogane also feels like things need to be done by the book, with diligence being something he values most. But hanging around in the chaotic, chica-infested environment that they spend most of their time in has changed them. Doing without the formality of a confession, and getting together through something more spontaneous like an unplanned kiss, would show that they've both grown out of their rigid ways of living. But it would also show that they've both grown up. Meeting someone outside school to confess and getting up the courage to do it may be a cute way for short-lived middle school and high school pairings to begin, but long-lasting serious relationships, not so much, both in real life and in anime. If these characters are being presented to us as being on the cusp of starting their adult lives, then it would make a lot of sense thematically if they got together in a way more akin to how adult relationships tend to start. So what do you think? How do you reckon Kaguya and Shirogane will end up together? Or do you think that ship might actually never sail? Let me know in the comments. And as always, please like and subscribe. This is a very new channel, so I do really need the love. If you want to hear more theories about how romances in anime are going to play out, you can also check out my video about my next life as a villainess. If you're interested in checking out my own books, then a link to my full catalogue is in the description. They're all available to buy on Amazon or read free with Kindle Unlimited. I do have to warn you though that they're very much on the steamy side, so give them a miss if you're sweet and innocent like Kaguya. Thanks for watching, and I really hope to see you again soon.